What happens when two of Hollywood, as most beloved personalities, sit down for what should be a light-hearted chat, only for it to spiral into one of the most uncomfortable moments in daytime television history. The tension between Reese Witherspoon and Kelly Clarkson went from zero to explosive in a matter of minutes. And what unfolded left the studio audience speechless, with cameras rolling on a moment nobody saw coming. Before we get into exactly what was said that caused Reese to walk off that stage, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me whose side you're on in this clash. Because trust me, you're going to have opinions. The interview started innocently enough. Kelly welcomed Reese to the show with her signature warmth, complimenting her latest project and asking about her production company. Reese smiled, settled into the guest chair, and the conversation flowed easily through the first few questions. They talked about her upcoming film, her work behind the scenes, and the challenges of balancing multiple careers. Everything seemed perfectly pleasant. But then Kelly pivoted to a topic that clearly caught Reese off guard. She leaned forward with that curious expression she gets when she's about to dig deeper and said, "So, Reese, there's been a lot of talk lately about how you've built your brand around being relatable and representing the everyday woman, but some people are saying that message feels a bit disconnected from reality given your lifestyle. How do you respond to that criticism?" The shift in Reese's demeanor was immediate. Her smile tightened just slightly, and there was a pause a beat too long before she responded. "Well, Kelly, I think that's a pretty reductive way to look at what I do. I've worked incredibly hard to create opportunities for women in this industry, both in front of and behind the camera. The idea that I can't speak to universal experiences just because I've been successful is frankly insulting." Kelly didn't back down. She maintained her friendly tone but pressed forward. "I hear you, and nobody's questioning your work ethic or your accomplishments. But I think what people are getting at is there's a difference between creating opportunities and truly understanding the struggles that most women face every day. When you're talking about empowerment from a place of enormous privilege, doesn't that message lose some of its impact?" Reese's jaw visibly clenched. "You know what, Kelly? I find it interesting that you're bringing this up, considering you built your entire career on being the girl next door from Texas, and now you have your own talk show, multiple business ventures, and you're worth millions. Should we question your authenticity too?" The audience went quiet. Kelly laughed, but it was that uncomfortable laugh people use when they're trying to diffuse tension. "That's fair. That's totally fair. I'm not saying I'm not privileged to absolutely am. But I've always been pretty upfront about where I came from and where I am now. I don't market myself as the voice of everyday struggles anymore because I'm not living them. That's the distinction I'm trying to make." Reese shifted. In her seat, her body language becoming more defensive. "So what you're saying is that because I've achieved success, I should just stop advocating for women altogether. I should just sit back and not use my platform to talk about issues that matter." Kelly shook her head quickly. "No, not at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm asking about the gap between the message and the messenger. You can advocate for women, absolutely. But when you're selling that advocacy through products and books and brands, and the women you're supposedly championing can't afford any of it, what are we really doing here? Is it advocacy, or is it marketing?" That question hung in the air like smoke. Reese stared at Kelly for a long moment, and you could see her processing whether to engage or deflect. She chose to engage. "Wow. Okay. So now we're reducing everything I've built to a marketing scheme. That's incredibly dismissive of the real work I've done. Created jobs for hundreds of women. I've produced content that puts female stories at the center. I've used my influence to change how women are portrayed in media. But sure, let's just call it marketing." Kelly leaned back slightly, clearly aware that the conversation had shifted into dangerous territory but seemingly committed to seeing it through. I'm not dismissing any of that, Reese. I think those contributions are significant. But you have to admit, there's a performative element to some of it. The perfectly curated book club pics. The lifestyle brand that sells expensive dresses. The constant messaging about female empowerment that comes packaged with a price tag. Can you see how that might feel disingenuous to some people? Reese's face flushed. Performative. You think what I do is performative. I wake up every single day thinking about how to create more space for women in this industry. I fight battles you don't even see. I take meetings where I'm the only woman in the room. I push for equal pay, for better roles, for more female directors, and you're sitting here suggesting it's all an act. The audience was completely silent now. Some people glanced at each other nervously. The cameras kept rolling. Kelly took a breath and said, I'm not suggesting it's all an act. I'm asking you to acknowledge the complexity of it. Asterisk, you can do good work and still benefit enormously from that work in ways that complicate the message. Those two things can be true at the same time. Reese stood up slightly, then sat back down, clearly agitated. You know what's complicated? Kelly, being a woman in Hollywood who actually tries to make a difference and then being torn apart for it by other women. I would think you, of all people, would understand the impossible standards we're held to. We're supposed to be successful, but not too successful. We're supposed to speak up, but not too loudly. We're supposed to help other women, but God forbid we make any money doing it. It's exhausting. Kelly nodded slowly. It is exhausting. You're right about that. And maybe that's exactly why this conversation matters. Because we're both sitting here to successful women and we can't even have an honest discussion about privilege and messaging without it becoming a fight. What does that say? Reese's eyes narrowed. What it says, Kelly, is that you invited me on your show under the pretense of a friendly interview and instead decided to use me as your example for some point you're trying to make about authenticity and privilege. If you had issues with how I run my business or my message, you could have called me privately. But you chose to do this here, on camera, in front of an audience. So let's talk about authenticity. How authentic is that? The accusation landed. Hard Kelly's expression shifted surprise, mixed with something that looked like hurt. That's not what this is. I ask all my guests challenging questions. That's part of having real conversations. I'm not ambushing you. Reese let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Real conversations. Is that what we're calling this? Because from where I'm sitting, this feels like an interrogation. Kelly straightened in her chair, her voice firmer now. An interrogation. Reese, I'm asking you questions about your public image and your business. That's literally what talk shows do. If that feels like an interrogation to you, maybe that says something about how comfortable you are with the scrutiny. Reese's eyes went wide. Oh, so now you're psychoanalyzing me. This just keeps getting better. You know what, Kelly? Let me ask you something. When was the last time you had a male guest on this show and questioned whether his success made his message less authentic? When was the last time you asked a man if his business ventures were performative? Kelly didn't hesitate. I've had plenty of conversations with men about authenticity and privilege. Just last month, I talked to a tech CEO about exactly that, but you're deflecting. This isn't about gender. This is about you specifically and the brand you've built. It's always about gender, Reese shot back. Every single criticism of Kenyo, every single criticism of successful women comes back to this idea that we're not genuine enough, not humble enough, not relatable enough. Meanwhile, men build empires and nobody questions their motives or their authenticity. They're just called successful. But when women do it, suddenly we need to justify every decision and prove we're still one of the regular people. Kelly leaned forward again. But Reese, you're the one who positioned yourself as the voice of regular women. Nobody forced. You to build your brand that way. You chose that lane. So, yes, people are going to hold you accountable when your lifestyle doesn't match the messaging. That's not unfair. That's just consequences. Consequences, Reese repeated, her voice rising slightly. Consequences for what? For being successful, for building businesses, for making money. I'm sorry, I didn't realize those were crimes. And you know what's really rich about this whole thing? You're sitting here judging me while you do the exact same thing show your sponsors, your book deals. You're not exactly living in a studio apartment in the valley, Kelly. The difference, Kelly said, her voice steady, is that I'm not selling empowerment as a product. I'm not telling women that buying my book club pick or my dress line is going to change their lives. I'm not packaging feminism as a lifestyle brand. That's the distinction. Reese stood up this time, actually stood up from her chair. So, what you're really saying is that any woman who makes money from talking about women's issues is a fraud. That's your position, that we should all just advocate for free, work for free, build platforms for free. Kelly remained seated, but her voice gained intensity. That's not what I'm saying, and you know it. I'm saying there's a responsibility that comes with positioning yourself as a champion for everyday women. And when those everyday women can't afford to participate in the movement you're selling, you have to ask yourself who you're really serving. Reese's hands were trembling slightly. She pointed at Kelly. You don't know anything about who I'm serving. You don't know about the scholarships I've funded, the programs I've created, the women I've mentored privately without any cameras around. But sure, focus on the book club. Focus on the dresses. Reduce everything I do to commerce because that fits your narrative. Kelly's expression softened just slightly. If you're doing all that work, and I believe you are, why not lead with that? Why is the public-facing side of your brand so heavily focused on consumption? That's a genuine question, Reese. I'm trying to understand the choice, because that's what keeps the lights on. Reese said, her voice cracking just a bit, because nobody funds female-led content out of the goodness of their hearts. Because in order to create opportunities for women, I need money and power and influence. And in this industry, you get those things by building brands and making deals, and yes, selling products. It's not ideal, but it's reality. And the fact that you're criticizing me for operating within the system we're all stuck in is just it's disappointing. Kelly, I expected better from you. Kelly stood up now, too, the physical distance between them shrinking. And I expected you to be able to have this conversation without making me the villain. I'm not your enemy here. I'm asking questions that a lot of people are thinking. If you can't handle those questions, if the only response is to get defensive and deflect, then maybe the criticism has more merit than you want to admit. The audience gasped audibly. Someone coughed. The tension was suffocating. Reese stared at Kelly for what felt like an eternity. When she spoke again, her voice was cold. You know what, Kelly? I don't have to handle anything. I don't have to sit here and defend my life's work to someone who clearly already has her mind made up about me. This was supposed to be a conversation, but you're right, not. It's a setup, and I'm done participating. Kelly's face fell. Reese, come on, don't do that. We can disagree and still talk this through. No, Reese said sharply. We really can't, because you're not listening. You're just waiting for me to say something you can use to prove your point. Every answer I give, you twist it into evidence of my supposed hypocrisy. There's no winning here. There's no good faith discussion happening. Kelly threw her hands up slightly. I am listening. I'm engaging with everything you're saying. Just because I'm not agreeing with you doesn't mean I'm not listening. That's not how conversations work. Don't lecture me about how conversations work. Reese snapped. You ambushed me on your show with accusations disguised as questions. And now you're acting like I'm the unreasonable one for being upset about it. That's manipulation. Kelly, that's not honest discussion. Kelly's voice rose to match Reese's energy. I didn't ambush you. These are questions based on public perception and public criticism of your brand. This is literally the job. If you can't handle press questions about your image, then maybe don't build your entire career around your image. There it is, Reese said, nodding slowly. There's the real Kelly Clarkson, not the bubbly sweetheart everyone thinks you are. The mean girl who tears other women down to make herself feel superior. I see you now. Kelly recoiled like she'd been slapped. That is so unfair. I have done nothing but support women my entire career. Asking you tough questions is not tearing you down, it's treating you like an adult who can defend her choices. Reese grabbed her purse from beside the chair. I don't need to defend anything to you. My work speaks for itself. And honestly, Kelly, maybe you should look in the mirror before you start interrogating other women about authenticity. Because from where I'm standing, inviting someone on your show just to attack them is about as inauthentic as it gets. Kelly's voice wavered slightly. Asterisk, I wasn't attacking you. I was trying to have a real conversation about something that matters. Well, congratulations, Reese, she said bitterly. You've got your real conversation. You've got your viral moment. I hope it was worth it. I hope tearing me down on national television makes you feel really good about yourself. The words hung between them, sharp and final. Kelly opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again, struggling with what to say. How to fix this? Whether it could even be fixed. Reese didn't wait for an answer. She turned toward the edge of the stage, her movements sharp and decisive. Kelly finally found her voice. Reese, wait, please. Can we just take a breath and talk about this calmly? Reese stopped, but didn't turn around. Her voice was low, controlled. There's nothing left to talk about. You made your point. I'm the out-of-touch celebrity who doesn't deserve to speak about women's issues because I have money. Message received loud and clear. That is not what I said, Kelly insisted, taking a step toward her. You're putting words in my mouth. I never said you don't deserve to speak about these issues. I said there's a complexity to it that deserves examination. That's all. Reese turned back around, her eyes glistening. Do you have any idea what it's like to pour everything you have into trying to make things better for other people, only to be constantly told it's not enough? That you're not doing it right, that your motives must be selfish. I have given decades of my life to this industry, to creating change, to fighting for women who come after me, and it's never enough. There's always someone ready to tear it down, to question it, to diminish it. Kelly's expression softened, almost sympathetic. I can't imagine how hard that must be. I really can't. But Reese's criticism isn't the same as diminishment. People can appreciate your work and still question aspects of how you do it. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. When the criticism is constant, when it's relentless. When it comes even from people who should understand, Reese said quietly, it starts to feel like diminishment. It starts to feel personal, and maybe you're right. Maybe I am too defensive. Maybe I can't separate the work from the criticism anymore because I've been defending myself for so long that it's become automatic. Kelly took another small step forward. Then let's start over. Forget the cameras. Forget the audience. Just two women talking honestly. I genuinely want to understand your perspective without the defensiveness and without the attacks. Can we do that? Reese shook her head slowly. I don't think we can. Not here. Not like this. You've already framed this entire conversation as an interrogation of my authenticity. There's no resetting from that. The damage is done. Oh. Sorry you feel that way, Kelly said, her voice genuinely pained. That wasn't my intention. I swear to you, that was never my intention. But it was the result, Reese replied. Intention doesn't really matter when the impact is the same. You invited me here, put me in front of your audience, and made me defend my entire life's work. Whether you meant it that way or not, that's what happened. Kelly ran a hand through her hair, frustration and regret battling on her face. What do you want me to say, Reese? I can apologize for how this went. I can acknowledge that I pushed too hard on sensitive topics, but I can't apologize for asking questions that I think are important. I can't apologize for that, and I can't sit here and be your cautionary tale about successful women. Losing touch, Reese countered. I won't be the example you use to make whatever point you're trying to make about privilege and authenticity. I have too much respect for myself to participate in that. The audience was so quiet you could hear people breathing. Someone's phone buzzed, and the sound seemed deafening in the silence. Kelly looked at the audience, then back at Reese. Her voice dropped lower. Off camera. Can we talk about this off camera? Reese gave a bitter smile. Now you want to go off camera after you've already gotten what you wanted, after the damage is already broadcast.